Should F1 teams be allowed to speak to the FIA? It's fair to say that the introduction of the FIA team radio to the broadcast has given us huge amounts of entertainment as well as insight into the kinds of conversations people have with the race director Michael Masi. However, through the duration of the season, the sound bites we hear have gone from complaining about blue flags to yelling, "No Michael, no Michael, that was so not right," on the final lap of Abu Dhabi. A piece of audio I literally cannot get out of my head. It is ingrained in my memory. With more and more people questioning the influence teams have over potential FIA decisions, it poses the question as to whether they should be allowed to communicate with Michael Masi at all. Let's take a look at both sides of the argument. Teams should be allowed to communicate with the race director. Having a line of communication with the FIA and its race director is essential for safety, like being able to notify the FIA of incidents that may have been missed or driver feedback on track conditions. These are important pieces of information that need to be relayed to the FIA in some way. However, just because this side of the argument is in favour of communication does not mean the current process is flawless. If communication is the way to go, it should be limited to one representative from each team, such as Jonathan Wheatley at Red Bull and not Christian Horner when he wants to have a rant at Masi. The Belgian Grand Prix qualifying session was a good example of a time where communication was necessary. Sebastian Vettel told his team that the Q3 session should be red flagged. "Too much water, there's a lot of rain here in turn 5, he told his engineer. "We should red flag in my opinion." 90 seconds later, Lando Norris had crashed at the top of Eau Rouge. When recording the WTF1 podcast for Abu Dhabi, one Team WTF1 member suggested even having a Hawkeye system as they use in tennis, and to be fair, they could be onto a winner here, no pun intended. The rules of Hawkeye in tennis allow each player 2 challenges per set, which means they can question if a ball has been labelled as being out incorrectly. With so few opportunities, each use is important and needs to be used carefully. Perhaps F1 could introduce something similar, like only getting 3 15-second conversations with the race director if you wish to raise a point. Gives me serious Who Wants to Be a Millionaire phone a friend vibes. It means that the time is precious and you can't just use it as a ranting session. Overall, this whole situation is a mess. Conversations about limiting time spent on the radio to the race director shouldn't even be necessary if teams respected the boundaries and used their line of communication appropriately. Masi should also be firmer with his instructions and orders if he's to stay in his job next year. The teams shouldn't be allowed to talk to the race director. Let's take a look at the other side of the argument now. While the FIA team radio was a brilliant listen, it also showed just how much say team bosses had in decisions, which is a real problem. Too much of this season has felt like Toto Wolff and Christian Horner making the calls and not the race director. The Abu Dhabi safety car controversy could maybe have been avoided had Masi had just been left to his own devices and not had Wolff shouting at him not to restart the race and Horner, unsurprisingly, doing the exact opposite. You could even hear Masi telling Horner just to let him sort the situation out, but he should have been much sterner with it. All that would take is not allowing the teams to speak to him in the first place. While F1 is very different to other sports, in football, if a bad tackle is made, they don't allow the managers onto the pitch to argue why it shouldn't have been a foul, because of course, they're always going to be biased to their own team and try to manipulate the referee. So why are team principals allowed to have so much influence in the decision making when they're always going to back their driver no matter what the situation? It adds nothing. To cover off the safety aspect, there is a need sometimes for the teams to be able to speak to the officials to warn about certain situations. There could be an F1 fourth official who can pass on relevant information to the race director and only relevant information. Both sides of the argument highlight good points, and it basically showcases just how difficult of a spot F1 is in at the moment when it comes to communication between the FIA and the teams. Where do you stand on all of this? Let us know in the comment section below.